Good evening and welcome to the Pompey Politics Podcast Prime Minister's Question Special. I'm Ian Tiny Morris.
And I'm Simon Sainsbury. Are we going to keep calling them a special if we're doing them every week?
Oh, I think we should try and make them special.
Of course.
Our
Prime
Minister's...
viewers and our listeners deserve no less.
Well, what do you want? The Prime Minister's questions being asked, none being answered. Pretty pitiful point scoring on both sides.
What a strange prediction.
It's not the same. So I'm keeping it special.
Okay.
Let's run VT and see how Sir K and KB get on today.
How KS and KB do it. Yeah. Okay. Roll VT, as they say.
Leader of the opposition, Kemi Benno.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Why does the Prime Minister think now is the right time to increase the cost of petrol?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we are not increasing the cost of petrol. We're absolutely clear in taking the measures that are necessary to deal with the impact of the conflict in Iran. We're dealing with that with other allies. We're taking the necessary action. But the best thing that we can do, Mr. Speaker, is to work with others to de-escalate the situation. And Mr. Speaker, as I said to the House last week, I took the decision that we should not join the initial US-Israeli offensive against Iran. The Leader of the Opposition attacked me for that decision relentlessly. She said that the UK should have joined the US and Israel in the initial offensive strikes. Mr. Speaker, then yesterday, in the wake of the economic consequences, the Leader of the Opposition totally abandoned her position. She told the BBC, "I never said we should join." She told the BBC, "I haven't said we should have gone in with the United States." That is the mother of all U-turns on the single most important decision a Prime Minister ever has to take, whether to commit the United Kingdom to war or not.
Mr. Speaker, I think the mother of all U-turns is him saying that they're not increasing fuel duty. That is news to us because last week the Chancellor stood up and said the fuel duty was going to increase in September. The Prime Minister told us at the start of the year that the cost of living was his #1 priority. So can he explain how a rise in fuel duty helps with the cost of living?
Mr. Speaker, fuel duty is frozen. It's going to remain frozen until September, and we will keep the situation under review in light of what's happening in Iran. But, Mr. Speaker, the most important issue is de-escalating the situation. And I come back to the Leader of the Opposition's position because this is one of the most important decisions a Prime Minister or Leader of the Opposition ever has to take, whether to commit your country to war. The day after the initial US-Israeli strike started, her Shadow Foreign Secretary said that the US-Israeli initial attacks were absolutely right, and it is a position my party supports. She said, why has the Prime Minister not actually worked with America to be much more proactive? Last Wednesday, Leader of the Opposition. We are in this war whether we like it or not. What is the Prime Minister waiting for? Then yesterday she says, I never said, I know they don't want to hear it. I know they don't. I wouldn't want to hear it if I were them. After all that, she said...
Order. Enough is enough. I can't hear it. Who wants to lead the first ones out? Right, we'll have a little bit more silence. Prime Minister.
So after 9 days of saying, join the war, join the war, join the war, yesterday she says, I never said we should join. I haven't said we should go in with the US. I'll tell you what's happened, Mr. Speaker. She and the Reform leader have been spooked because they realise they've jumped into supporting a war without thinking through the consequences. And now she's furiously trying to backpedal.
So I'll pause a bit there. So,
well, what again? So I guess we did get an answer to the question. You had to listen very carefully in between the lines. So the question was, why is it good to make petrol more expensive? And I think the answer was, we're not doing it yet. We're planning to do it in September, but keeping the situation under review. What do we think that means?
Well, it means you can't give a straight answer now. But to be fair, considering 2 weeks ago we didn't expect there to be armed conflict in Iran, who would be crazy enough to predict what you're going to be able to do with fuel duty in September?
Well, and that's the thing, isn't it? And it's a little bit like and again, the honest politician, isn't it? Things have changed. But the initial, was it just me, Simon, or when the first question was asked? So Kay just stood up and read the pre-prepared statement that he was going to read whatever question was asked.
Yeah, to be fair, that's an interesting point has been noted kind of elsewhere. It seems that they're not having conversations with each other; they're having conversations at each other, and they're both using prepared statements. Kemi is quite clearly enjoying, in a for want of a better phrase, stirring the shit, and trying to and basically mischievously. With a wry smile, basically trying to tear shreds off of the PM, but at the same time, there's a fundamental point here, isn't there? How can you, on one hand, be concerned about what's going to happen to fuel prices, but on the other hand, think on Tuesday that you should be backing an illegal, unplanned, unjustified war in Iran, but then like a week later, you're not backing it. You not think that that's going to have some sort of impact on fuel prices. It's point scoring over joined up, grown up thinking is I think the point I'm making.
Yeah, no, and I think there is and this is where again, it is the unsubtlety of we listened to PMQs last week, and we heard Kemi being very critical of, and the phrase that stayed with me, Kia's trying to catch the arrows while America's trying to shoot the archer.
Yes.
And this was after British bases had come under attack.
Although
I don't think...
it turned out later on not to be from
well,
Iranian drones.
They had come from Jordan. Well, I mean, Iranian drones, they were bought and paid for by Iran, but
yes, but they weren't. They weren't coming from Iran. Yes.
Yeah. But I see that as being fundamentally different to quote unquote backing the war. He says, making air quotes. It's
But I think the comments that the quotes that the PM is mentioning aren't only the ones where she expressed support for the war weren't the things that she said in PMQs last week. But let's hear a bit more before I do. Anyone else following, please give us a like, give us a comment, give us a follow, give us a subscribe. Let us know what you think. Sorry, in the chat. And let's carry on and hear some more.
The Prime Minister seems to be asking last week's questions. This week, I'm asking about fuel duty. He has said that he wants to help... Mr. Speaker, he has said that he wants to help with the cost of living. My constituents live in a rural area. They rely on their cars to get to the shops, take their kids to school, see their elderly parents. And they tell me the rising cost of petrol is the single biggest cost affecting family finances. So does the Prime Minister not understand how important cars are to people in rural areas, or does he just not care?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we're working across all departments and with allies to deal with the impact of the conflict in Iran, as the House would expect. But she says about, if I'd asked her last week, her position would have been, we support the initial strikes and we want to join the war. This week she says, we don't want to join the war. I'm sorry, that is a screeching U-turn. And Mr. Speaker, this is it. In this job, you don't get a second shot at making the right call on taking your country to war. If she were Prime Minister, Mr. Speaker, we would be in the war, and she would be coming back to Parliament a week later to say, oh, sorry, I got that one wrong.
Order! 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 I'm sorry I'm interrupting you, but unfortunately, we've got to stick to Prime Minister's questions, not opposition questions. Kevin Bader up.
Mr. Speaker, he said if I were Prime Minister, HMS Dragon would have left a week ago. The only time Mr. Speaker, the only time he's taken decisive action was stopping Andy Burnham from standing in the by-election. But let's talk about what the people out there are worried about. I heard from a builder, Mr. Speaker, who has 115 employees using 75 vans. With the jobs tax, sky-high energy bills, and now a hike in petrol prices, that builder is having sleepless nights. How does the Prime Minister justify a rise in fuel duty to that small business owner and millions more like him up and down the country?
Prime Minister.
There hasn't been a rise. It is frozen. There isn't going. It is frozen until September. And Mr. Speaker, she mentions the HMS Dragon. Can I first start by thanking the Royal Navy who are serving on HMS Dragon? Can I second say that what's been happening is it's been carefully being loaded with the anti-strike ammunition and capability that it needs. And the Navy and civilians have been working 22-hour shifts in relationship. But in relation to those that are taking the action to defend us, what does she say? Just hanging about. Just hanging about. That's how she described our pilots in the region. Let me tell you what they've been doing. Flying sorties in 7 of the 10 countries in the region day and night, taking out incoming strikes, protecting the lives of others whilst risking their own. If she had any decency, she'd get up and she would apologise.
Going to pause there. So,
bit of local interest. HMS Dragon.
Yes.
Nigel posing in front of it yesterday.
Well, I'm sure something was bound to make it want to leave. Yeah, I mean, if even the Speaker of the House is having to remind the Prime Minister that it's Prime Minister's question time, and that we're just kind of re-rehearsing or revisiting the lines that we had last week, it's not a rerun, is it? At the end of the day, it's a different week with a different set of problems, and it seems a different set of solutions from different parties. But is anything landing?
Well, I guess but isn't it an interesting piece around the sort of goading and the counter goading, which isn't productive. So obviously, Keir's attack line this week is you would have had to have U-turned on the war if you were Prime Minister. And Kemi's approach was how do you fancy doing a U-turn on fuel duty? And they're kind of both staring at each other, waiting to see who was going to blink first. And the fuel duty's not until September. And I just think that this is where sometimes there's a bit of, well, if you are, you can say it's under review. Is there anything wrong in saying, no one could have predicted the sharp rises in petrol prices. We recognise it. We will keep it under review. And if the situation remains serious and prices are at the level that they are now, then of course we won't increase fuel duty. No. I don't get why you wouldn't say that.
Well, if you're not in a position to close down the question and the argument in that way, that's got to be because you actually don't know what you're going to do, or you haven't kind of set a red line by which you're going to decide to do something else, and therefore there's a conversation and a calculation going on somewhere else, obviously in the Treasury, about what you will or won't do and what the differences are going to be that would cause you to make a different decision. But you're right. You could be saying the word, words to that effect, but then you only want to say that if you can be held to it.
I
mean, there's also, of course, the possibility of, depending on certain pundits, as to not being funny, whether he'll be the guy around in September.
Well, there is that, but there's also an element of, in reality, if everything, if the fuel price is driving up costs and prices and everything else, and I'm a simple man, I'm not an economist, but doesn't that mean that the VAT that you're going to get on all those things that cost more is going to go up? So you're going to get more taxation in, which means you could possibly. I mean, all the sums need to be done, but yeah. Shall we listen to some more?
Yes, let's make our way through it.
Mr. Speaker. Oh, hang on. I think they should wait for it. Mr. Speaker, I have never criticised our armed forces. I have criticised him.
Order. Mr. Swallow, you're going out. I've had enough. Week in, week out. Either leave or I'll name you.
Mr. Speaker, I have never criticised our armed forces. I am criticising him and his decisions. And let me remind the House, Mr. Speaker, about his record on the armed forces. This is the same man who worked with Phil Shiner, a traitor to this country, who made up evidence to put our soldiers in prison for crimes they didn't commit. That is his record, so I won't take any lectures from him. And by the way, military families are also worried, the ones in this country, about petrol prices. He's got nothing to say on that. And there's another group of people, Mr. Speaker, who have been hammered by this government. Farmers. I spent all last year telling the Prime Minister that his family farms tax was killing British farming. Now, those farmers are being punished with higher fuel prices. Does the Prime Minister think that's fair?
So, Mr. Speaker, no apology to our pilots who are risking their lives. And I'm not going to take lectures from someone who says we should join the war, and a week later says, can I change my mind? I got that wrong. It is deeply embarrassing. And she's not the only one. Mr. Speaker, last week she's not the only one, the leader of Reform. We should be part of this with the US and the Israelis. We have to get rid of the regime. We should do all we can to support the operation. I make that perfectly clear, he said. Until yesterday, screeching U-turn, we shouldn't get ourselves involved in another foreign war. Two parties packed with failed Tories, led by leaders who are not fit to be Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker.
Just pause it quickly just to say the camera kind of, for those listening on audio later, the camera then switched, showing that Nigel Farage was actually in the chamber, and sat next to him was Sorella Braverman. Do you want to make any comment, or shall I go straight back to playing on?
Yes, go. Play some more.
Speaker, he doesn't want to talk about fuel duty because he has got absolutely no answers. The Conservatives are on the side of farmers. We are also on the side of drivers. We froze fuel duty every year from 2011, and in fact, we cut it in 2022 because we care about the cost of living. Labour think drivers are a cash cow. And now, Mr. Speaker, they think that drivers are a cash cow, and now they're hiking fuel duty for the first time in 15 years. Everyone in this House knows the pattern. First, he'll march his backbenchers up the hill. Then they'll be forced to defend fuel duty rises in the local elections. Then there'll be another humiliating U-turn. So why doesn't the Prime Minister just stand up, admit he's got it wrong again, and scrap the fuel duty hike now?
Mr. Speaker, in the last 2 weeks, I've made two of the most important decisions a Prime Minister can make. The first is that we should not join the war in Iran. The second is we should protect British lives and the British national interest. The leader of the opposition decided that we should join the war against Iran. A week later, that we should not join the war against Iran and to insult our armed forces. She has utterly disqualified herself from ever becoming Prime Minister. Thankfully, she never will.
Said David, leader of the Liberal Democrats.
Before we go to Ed, do you want to round off on the comments on?
Yeah, I just the whole premise of his kind of attack line, which for me was, she said we should go to war. Now she says we shouldn't. I just don't think that's true. I think it's just a lie, and I just think it's a bit. Yeah,
She's clearly she's on record as saying elsewhere that we should be in it with the Americans, so we should have joined them.
Well, and that's where I'd need to see the exact wording, Simon, because there's an element of, if you say it's the right thing to do, that doesn't mean that you want to join in. If you say that, we should be more cooperative, that doesn't mean that we should be putting boots on the ground in Iran. Do you know what I mean? It is shades of grey. It's not as black and white as, oh yeah, can't wait to join in. Oh shit, no, we don't want to have any part of that. But I guess we live in an era where nuanced politics just doesn't happen. So let's see what Ed Davies comes this week on a glider.
Again, no, and no kind of bungee jumping or rappelling. He's not rappelled down the face of the Elizabeth Tower into the chamber either. So,
well, let's see what he's got to say then, seeing as he's not giving us any bungee-related antics.
No.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. May I pay tribute to the honourable member for Warrington North for her powerful and courageous speech in the debate on jury trials yesterday. I really hope the Prime Minister was listening. Mr. Speaker, 30 years ago this week, a man carried 4 handguns into Dunblane Primary School and murdered a teacher and 16 children. I was deeply moved by the BBC documentary about it last night and the courage of the parents who campaigned for a ban on handguns to keep other children safe, including Mick North, who lost his 5-year-old daughter Sophie on that dark day. He's rightly called on the honourable member for Clacton to renounce his description of the handgun ban as, and I quote, ludicrous, something the member still refuses to do. And Mr. North has also called for a review of firearms legislation to close any loopholes. Does the Prime Minister agree?
Prime Minister.
Well, I certainly do, and we must never forget the horror of Dunblane and never forget the young children and their teacher who did not come home from school. The campaign that families fought to make this country a safer place is a lasting legacy, and we should be enormously grateful for their courage.
Sir Ed Davey.
The Prime Minister for his reply, and I hope the government will close any loopholes. Mr. Speaker, this week families across the country have seen petrol prices rise at the pump, mortgage rates go up, and fixed energy deals get more expensive, all because of a war they did not start and do not support. The leader of the Conservatives has been competing with the honourable member for Clacton to be Donald Trump's biggest cheerleader. And the Prime Minister was right to reject their costly warmongering. But last week, I asked him to guarantee that energy bills won't rise by hundreds of pounds in July. He didn't answer. So let me try again. Will he give people that energy bill guarantee now?
Prime Minister.
Can I thank him for raising this, because people will be really worried about the impact on them, and just to reassure households that the cap is in place until the end of June, until July, and therefore that deals with the situation for households there. We are working with the sector and with others and with allies to do everything we can to make sure those energy bills don't rise. So we're working round the clock on that. The most important thing, the most effective thing we can do is to work with our allies to find a way to de-escalate the situation. He's right about the Leader of the Opposition, the Leader of Reform. Last week they were urging us to join, this is serious, to join. If they had been leading the country, we'd be in a war, and they'd now come to Parliament to say, oop.
Order. Prime Minister, who said lying again? I want that withdrawn. I did. Is that withdrawn? And I'll deal with it, thank you. I don't want any more off the front bench. We take it very seriously, and calling another member a liar is not acceptable. Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and so that's our position.
Stephen Flynn.
So we'll leave it there. So the ever interesting and confusing thing about Parliament, you can lie, but you can't call someone a liar.
No, you have parliamentary privilege, which means you can tell big fat whoppers, but if somebody says that's a big fat whopper, they are often ejected from the House. Yeah, I mean, again, there is a piece where Ed Davey's absolutely right. The fuel prices have shot up due to a war that Britain neither wanted nor encouraged, in the same way that fuel prices shot up when Russia invaded Ukraine. I think there is a piece where it is one of the factors of war, and it's a whole other show as to what we could do as a nation to buffer ourselves against the global gas and oil prices. But yeah, the thing on handguns, a serious point, a bit of a jibe at Nigel, which you kind of look at and just kind of roll your eyes. But yeah, not one to make any points on, because the country is a safer place for the campaign that saw handguns outlawed.
Yeah, it's yes, it's a crying shame. One of those rare occasions where effective and rapid and useful legislation came into effect as the result of a terrible situation. Thankfully, that's something that we've managed to learn. Not all countries have had the same approach to mass shootings, but that by no means is a means to be smug. But it is a strange position for Farage to be taking, to be kind of in support of undoing those safety mechanisms that we just don't have the same gun culture that they do in other countries, and long may it stay that way.
Yeah, and again, obviously there was a quote there, use of the word ludicrous. I don't know what was said, and obviously that's kind of, yeah. I think if we look at PMQs as a whole, and I guess it is performative, and it's always going to be the kind of whole thrust of the opposition questions were, oh come on, fuel's going to rise. Can you do something about the fuel duty? Can you do something to help reassure people about the cost of living? And the response was, Kemi wanted to go to war, and now she doesn't. And did Farage? Yeah, not fit to be prime minister. It's like, well, for God's sake, just deal with the issues in hand. To be fair, if Lindsay even did the, oh, for Christ's sake, get back on the message, he's pretty relaxed most of the time, isn't he?
Yes, and yes, he is. I mean, I guess that, as we were saying earlier on, there's a fundamental question of, to be honest, that decision doesn't have to be made now. And weirdly enough, the more we talk about how awful things are going to be if the fuel duty rises, is actually it's kind of it's strange that the more you introduce that negative kind of conversations and connotations into the economy, the businesses that are struggling don't need someone reminding them how much worse it could be. Yeah. They need help with, or how much worse it might be, because we just don't know. Not being funny, this thing has come. If 3 weeks ago we'd said that this was going to be happening, people would have said, "Don't be bloody ridiculous. That's completely outrageous, and it wouldn't happen." So who's to know what's going to happen in the next 3 weeks that may well mean, you can only kind of essentially that duty rise, I suppose, in the Treasury's books is earmarked for something, and you can only spend it once, as in theory.
and that opens another fiscal can of worms, which I shall cram the lid on quickly.
Shut that down quite quickly.
And remind everybody that you've been listening to the Pompey Politics podcast, PMQ special, and it is special. I've been Ian Tiny Morris.
And I've been Simon Sainsbury. We won't have a show this Sunday. We're taking Mother's Day off, but we'll join us again next time for our look and reaction to PMQs. And we're living ever hopeful that there will be a sensible question and a sensible answer, but we're not going to hold our breath.
We dare to dream.
Yeah. Remember, the deadline to register to vote in May's local elections is 11:59 p.m. on Monday the 20th of April. Use the QR code on screen to take you to the Electoral Commission's website, where there are further details about registering to vote, as well as information where you can confirm where you would need to vote if you're voting in person on the day. Other deadlines apply to register for postal or proxy voting. Don't forget, if you're voting in person on May the 7th, you'll need to take photo ID to be able to vote. If you're not sure what photo ID counts, scan the QR code on screen or go to the Electoral Commission's website, where there are further details, including information about how to apply for a free voter authority certificate, which you will be able to use to vote in person on the day. Don't forget to like, follow and comment on Facebook, or comment and subscribe on YouTube. Find us on all the social media platforms: Facebook, X, YouTube, Threads, LinkedIn.